To create any of the new tool, you need to use one of the markers from LangChain, that is add a tool, and after that you can go and create the function here. If you see here, LLM will not call the tool directly. It will send the response to LangChain, then LangChain will take a call to call the particular tool here. This is very important. This is printing the title of the product. It is fetching the product ID of the one, and it is fetching the exact title of that particular product. Hello everyone, welcome to You Can Automate. In this session, we are going to learn about how to create our own tool using LangChain, and we are going to call that particular tool using a Ollama. So let's get into the session. These are the topics will be covered in this session. How to call LLM using LangChain. In the RAG series, we have understood how to call LLM directly, and here we are going to understand how to call LLM using LangChain, so that lot of code will be reduced. If you have not watched the previous session, link is given in the description. You can go and watch it. Second thing is how to create our own tool using LangChain and how you can call that particular tool. So how LLM calls customized tool, integration of LLM, LangChain, and the new tools which we have created. And here for LLM we are using Ollama, which is running in the local, and to perform all these things we are going to write a code. So let's begin with the session. This is the example of how Llama can be called, how LLM will be invoked without using LangChain. This is the previous project which we tried in the previous sessions. Here I am calling the Llama with Llama URL, model, and all those details here I need to mention, and this is only with one of the LLM. Each LLM will have a different way of connecting and different way of calling, but in the LangChain this is simplified here, and this is a new folder which I have created. Just open the folder, empty folder in the editor. Here I am going to write all the code here. First let me go and create the virtual environment here. So to create the virtual environment I am using a command python-yum venv, and virtual environment is created. Now I need to create the requirement.txt, so that I'll be adding all my libraries whichever is required here. Before that, first I need to activate the virtual environment. This is the command to activate the virtual environment. After that, creating the requirement.txt here, and in the requirement.txt I need to add some of the libraries to work with the LangChain. First thing is the LangChain core, and LangChain community, then LangChain Ollama, because I am using Ollama LLM here, then finally the request to interact and to call any of the API. So after that I'll be installing all these requirement, pip install -r requirement.txt. All the libraries should get installed here. So all the libraries got installed here. Then I'm going to create one file. First thing is I need to do LLM invoke. I'm creating a file called invoke llm.py. First I need to do a import here. Here I'm using a langchain.ollama here. I'm importing a chat Ollama. So here I need to invoke the Ollama here. Before invoking Ollama, I need to run the Ollama, and if you go to terminal and do a Ollama list, it will show the Ollama name which is running, and this is the model which we are using in the Ollama. So here in the chat Ollama I need to provide the model name equals to model name which I got it in the terminal. Once you define the model name, you can directly call the model here by using the llm.invoke, and you can pass the query here. What I'm doing here is llm.invoke, and inside that I'll be passing my prompt, what is a capital of India. So response.content will be my actual output. Before running this particular code, make sure that you are running Ollama in the terminal. If you want to know how to set up Ollama and how to start Ollama, in the previous session in one of the video I have shown it. The link is given in the description. You can go and check it. Once you do the setup, if you go to terminal and run Ollama list, it should show the model name here. So let me go and run this code. Yeah, so I got the response. This is how you can call any of the LLM using LangChain without writing much of the code. You can directly call it, because LangChain will take most of the configuration with LLM. Now we have understood how to call LLM using LangChain. The next topic is how to create our own tool using LangChain. This is very important topic. The first thing is I need to go and create a new file here. So my new file is tool calling. So this is the API which we will be using to create our tool. This is freely available, and this API will get me some of the product details details from a given store. So for example, if I send some of the product ID, and it will give me a title, description, and all the details about the product. So if I go and change some other product ID here, that is one, and it will give me some other details of the product. This is the sample API. We can go and use it for tool creation. Here tool is the API. I'm going to use this API to create our tool using LangChain. You can use any other tool also which you want. To create any of the new tool, you need to use one of the markers from LangChain, that is add a tool, and after that you can go and create the function. Here I'm creating a function that get the product details from the store, and it takes product ID as an argument and it returns the response. Here I'm calling the request.get. I'm sending the API endpoint, and here I'm using the product ID which is dynamically coming as a parameter here. So after that I'm converting this entire response to JSON format. Whenever this tool gets called, it will call this particular API, and API will return the product details. Here one thing is very important, that is a doc string. Based on this, only LLM will understand which tool to call and what is the usage of this particular tool. Here I have added doc string that get product details from the store by product ID, and LLM will check this doc string and will make a decision. So it is very important to pass the doc string. Now we have understood how to create our own tool. Now let's understand how this LLM calls the customized tool and how this integration of LLM, LangChain and tool works together. I have created a small flow diagram to showcase how LLM, LangChain and tools work together. For example, user asks a query. That will be a first step. Assume the user query is what is capital of India. That question goes to LLM, and LLM responds with some text, and in that text it will first go and see that whether the response which is coming from LLM requires any tool call. For example, we have created only the tool for product details. So this is our tool which we have created, which will return us only the information about the products. If I ask any of the questions which is outside of this scope, it won't reply anything. Similarly, if I'm asking a question as that what is capital of India, this particular question is out of scope of the tool which we have created. That's why LLM says that it is outside of the scope. Then the direct question goes to LLM, and whatever the LLM responds, right, based on its knowledge, that response will come and it will show to the user. Suppose if user is asking the query like, can you give the product details of ID 1? User query goes to LLM. LLM will respond saying that whether tool call is required or not, because it knows that there is a tool. This tool is registered with the LangChain, so it will know that this tool is exist, and it says that yes, tool call is required, because it is not having any information about this product ID. That's why LLM will say that yes, tool call is required. Then it will go to this particular flow. In the step 3a, whatever the function which we have created related to getting the product details from the store, right, that tool will be registered, and after registering, the tool's details and the user query, whatever user is sending, together will go to LLM, and then LLM will respond saying that you need to call the specific tool. How this response looks like is, whenever I call LLM with the tool details and the user query, if LLM understands that this particular query can be answered by calling a tool, right, the response looks like this. It says that AI message and all the details about the LLM will be mentioned here, and in the response it will say that tool underscore calls. In that it will mention what is the tool name you need to call and what is the arguments. That means if any parameter need to be sent for that particular API, that will be mentioned here, and what is the type of that particular tool. This tool underscore calls will tell you that this particular query can be answered by only calling the tool. This particular response from LLM will come to LangChain. Then LangChain will decide the tool call. If you see here, LLM will not call the tool directly. It will send the response to LangChain. Then LangChain will take a call to call the particular tool here. This is very important. LangChain will call the tool, and then here our tool is API, and API will give the response. Once the response comes back, this is how the response looks like, and from this response I want title. This is our problem statement. I'm asking LLM that give me the product details. From that I'm asking LangChain to fetch the title from this particular response. So now we have understood how the integration of LLM, LangChain and tool works. Now let's write a code to implement these things. Let me write a first step here. First step is I need to create a user query. What is my user query here is I need to get it from the user query, and here I need to prepare the user query. Query will be like whatever the question which I want to ask it. User underscore query equals to, can you tell me the details of the product ID 1 or whatever the product ID which you want to pass in. This is my user query, and after that I need to prepare the system prompt. This is very important, whether user is looking for the product details or user is looking for something out of that tool which we have registered. So that's why we need to prepare a system prompt here. In the system prompt I'm saying clearly that you are my assistant and some of the details. If user is asking to call the specific product details, to determine if user is asking for product details. So here I need to provide some of the details here, that query requires a tool call or not, and passing the user query as part of the system prompt here. And I need to add some extra instruction, answer with only yes or no, because this is very important. Based on the yes or no only I will be deciding whether I need to call the tool or not. So that's why I'm saying that first whatever the response which is coming from LLM will include only yes or no. If yes is there in the response, then I need to call the tool, otherwise I'll be calling the direct LLM. Here I'm writing that answer yes if user is asking for a product information, details or a specifications from a store. Answer no if user is looking for a different types of a data. The types could be anything, queries related to any of the personal information or any unrelated data, then answer no. And finally I'll be adding the answer here. So this is my system prompt, and I have prepared the user query and embedded the system prompt with that. Now I need to call the actual LLM. While calling the LLM I need to pass the system prompt. This system prompt includes a user query also, and in the LLM response I'll be getting yes or no. So this is my second step here. First check if the LLM response include yes or no. So this is my comment saying that first check if tool call is required or not. How do I check the tool call is required or not? In the LLM response it will say yes or no. So add a condition that if yes is present in the LLM response, then capture that result in the use underscore tool and add a if condition for that. If use underscore tool is true, then I'll be adding my prompt, and with this prompt I'll be adding a user query also. So here my prompt is ready to call the specific tool here, and before calling any of the specific tool I need to first register the tool. So here I'm writing a comment that bind the tool with the LLM. So how do I register the tool with LLM is, first I need to use LLM with tools, that is a variable, and I need to use the actual LLM object, and after that there is a method to bind the tool, to register the tool, LLM dot bind underscore tools. This is my method to register any of the tool, and inside that method I'll be passing the tool name. Tool name is method which we have created to get the product details from the store, and it is showing some error about the LLM. Let me see what I have done it. Okay, LLM object is not created here. LLM object I'm creating here, chat Ollama. After step 3a I need to call the LLM with the tools and the user query. So I need to write a code for that. So my step 4 will be sending the tool details plus the user query to LLM. So here invoke the LLM with the tool plus prompt. Prompt is nothing but the user query here. So here I'm writing that response equals to LLM with the tools, and here I need to call the specific tool, LLM with tools dot invoke, and then I need to pass the prompt. This prompt contains the user query, and here LLM will respond saying that which tool to call. Here if you have observed clearly, LLM will not call the tool directly. LLM will just respond saying that which tool to call based on the prompt. So based on that I'll be calling the tool. So my step 5 says that extract the tool call details from the LLM response. As you have seen in the flow diagram, so here I need to fetch the tool underscore call attribute from the response. So here I am using the get attribute. Once I fetch the tool underscore call attribute, from that I need to fetch the first object, because tool underscore calls will be array and it will have a list of tool names. Here I need to fetch the first tool. If you see the response here, tool underscore calls is array and I need to fetch the first object. because first object contains the name of the tool and different attributes, query parameters, everything it will contain. So here I fetch the first object from that, and then I need to get the name of the tool. So here I'll be first fetching the query details, that is nothing but the parameters, tool to call. From that I'll be fetching the specific arguments, because arguments will contain all the parameters, query parameters what I need to call. That will be my API query. Then I need to fetch the tool name, because response can contain multiple tools names from the LLM. From tool to call I'll be fetching the name attribute here. I can add the if condition saying that if tool name is so and so, then call this particular function. So here my step 6 is call the tool and get the response. So I'll add a if condition if tool name equals to the tool which I have added, get the product details from the store. So here I'll use a tool name get product details from store dot invoke, and here I'll be passing the API query. That is my query parameter. And once I get the response, as we discussed, I want to print the title of the product details response, and inside that I need to fetch the title. So this is my if condition. If tool need to be called. If user is sending a different query which doesn't require any of the tool call, then it comes to else block. There it will directly call the LLM and prints the response. If tool call is not required, then prepare a prompt with the user query, invoke LLM and print the response dot content. So here is my query. Can you tell me the details of the product ID? And it comes to if block. So here my coding is completed. Let me run this particular code. This is printing the title of the product. It is fetching the product ID of the one, and it is fetching the exact title of that particular product. If you go to API and search for product ID 1 and it gives a response, this particular response I am fetching from the tool call. LLM is suggesting me which tool to call. Based on that it is getting called. If tool need to be called, it comes to this particular if block and it will not go to else block. And if I go and change the user query to something else which is out of scope of this particular tool, let me ask some other detail. What is the capital of India? And for this query it does not require any of the tool information, so it will come to else block and direct LLM invoke happens. Let me run this code here. It says that capital of India is New Delhi. This is how tool can be created using LangChain and how to integrate with the LLM and make a user query on the different scenarios. I'll commit this entire code in the GitHub repository and I'll share the repository link in the description. You can go and clone it and try it out, and I'll share the API details on the description. You can go and check it. If you have any questions, you can add it in the comments. Thank you.